everybody. My name is Gabrielle Gardner, and we are back here for another Ascension Chat where I talk with spirit workers about the wonderful work that they are doing. And today I'm very grateful to be here with Dr. Davina Kotulski. And I'm just going to share a little bit about what she does. And so she is an award-winning self-help author. She's a motivational life coach. She's a speaker. She's led workshops and teleclasses on personal growth and spirituality, self-empowerment, authentic self-expression, beautiful topics. She works with Past Life Regression, which I'm excited to talk about. And she's appeared in numerous documentaries, Newsweek magazine, USA Today, CNN, all types of, really impressive background you've got going here. So I'm excited for you to come on and share your wisdom with all of us. You've got your fingers in a bunch of different pots, sort of as I do. You've got books, you've got YouTube, you've got classes, you're working on these past life regression personal sessions. And so there's tons of fun material here for you to bring to the table. And, I appreciate you bringing your expertise. But I think if you're okay with it, I'd like to kind of hone in on that past life regression stuff first, and then we'll get to your book, because your book also is incredibly beautiful and full of so much wisdom and knowledge for people who are sort of at any place on the spiritual path. But I'm interested in the past life regression stuff, so I'm going to be a little self-centered here because I don't know hardly anything about it, and it's not the side of spirit that I get. So if you want to, and if you can, explain it like we have absolutely no knowledge, what it is, what it looks like, all of that, how it works. So.
Okay, I'm happy to do that. First, I'm going to throw out a disclaimer, which is that I am also a psychologist. You mentioned the doctor part, and so I have to say this is a separate part. This is the psychotherapy field. Psychology does not, in some do, but some boards do not endorse past life regression work, and they don't legitimize it. So I just need to say this is separate from any sort of psychological thing. And this is spiritual work that's done separate from that. So I just want to say that. So if there's any psychology boards watching, you can hear that is not covered under my license. Past life regression is something completely separate. Yep. So that being said, I was trained in past life regression by psychiatrist Dr. Brian Weiss, who is an amazing clinician and author. If you're familiar with the book, Many Lives, Many Masters, you may not be, but other folks may have read this book. He was doing an internship. He'd been trained in hypnotherapy to help clients relax, and did a session with a client and kind of was taking her back, doing some relaxation, childhood memories, this and that. And it went back to another lifetime. And he thought it was strange. He told her about it. She thought it was strange. But what he realized was that some of the trauma that we have in our current lifetime, or some of our trauma responses, come from experiences that we've had in past lives. So he went on to write this groundbreaking book. It was very controversial. He was afraid he was going to lose his license. He was afraid he was going to be a laughingstock of psychiatry. Luckily, that was not the case. That was in the 1980s or early 90s, and has gone on to train people in different healing professions across the world in his method. And basically what a past life regression is it's a form of very focused attention. You're taking somebody into a trance-like state, going backward, back through childhood, back through being in the womb to another lifetime. The work is always for the intent of asking the higher consciousness what lifetime, what information, what lesson would be most useful for this person in their current lifetime, what information needs to come forward. So I'll give you an example. Like while I was in training, one of the people regressed me, and I went back to a lifetime where I was like maybe an Inuit. I was somewhere in the Arctic. I was a man. I was ice fishing, and I remembered having this like beautiful, like one of the memories was being in my home, kind of like an igloo kind of a thing, and with I had a beautiful little daughter, a little son. They were like 4 and 3, a wife, and a little puppy. And the puppy was, licking my kids' faces. And it was this beautiful memory of family,
Mm.
just gorgeous. It was a very harsh life, but there was also physical comfort. I wasn't super intellectually connected with my wife, but again, there was this sense of family and warmth. I saw myself being in another image, being with my community of men. We were sitting around a fire, eating food, laughing. Everyone were pretty grizzled. I didn't have many teeth. But it was again, there was a sense of community. There were memories of sitting and watching the aurora borealis. And then the person asked me to go forward to the last day of my life. And I remember I was lying in like a hut or a home, and someone was hitting me with branches, which I was to later learn is a very curandera kind of shamanic way of trying to heal somebody, is to use branches and to try to shake the bad energy or the sickness off of them. I had lost my will to live. Something had happened. I think something happened to my family. I was heartbroken and I had lost the will to live. Now, all of this came to me through this regression. At that time in my life, I was feeling very alone. I had been divorced. I was had gone into a relationship that wasn't working out, and I could not imagine being in a loving relationship again. It was just gone. And when that came through, it gave me this like past life regression. If you've ever done soul retrieval, which is a form of shamanic healing where part of your soul comes back to you, it was like this memory of my life, this previous life came back, and all of that love, all of that joy from that life came and was open, and it came back to my heart. And so I knew that whether I ever had a family, whether I was ever loved again, I could remember that vibration of love from that lifetime, that it was so pure, it was so wonderful, and it allowed me to move forward with wholeness. Now, that was my own experience.
Mhm.
I have done hundreds of past life regressions since my own regressions. There were other ones that I had done. But that kind of message comes through, is whatever somebody is struggling with in this lifetime, that they tap in, they remember something, they experience something, and there's a healing that can take place. They're learning something and they're remembering something, and they are able to use it in this lifetime to move forward with greater ease. And it's a healing. I don't know how, again, it's not a medical healing, it's not a
Right.
therapy healing, but it is some sort of spiritual healing that allows them to move forward.
Yeah. Yeah, that's beautiful. I I'll just quickly say I've had a few of my own come up in different spirit work that I've done, and yes, each one of them, it's really challenging to actually explain how it affects us here in the present day, but it profoundly affects us. And whether that's some sort of unhealthy habit we have, some sort of view of how we relate to other people, if it's related to an actual physical trauma. One of mine was like a bad kind of violent death thing that left actually one of my organs sort of weakened. And I did this healing thing with this woman, and like my health improved from it. I mean, it's just
Yeah.
it's remarkable how that does carry over, and what can be. So I would say real quick too, I mean, I think I kind of know the answer to this, but who would you recommend you know, possibly trying out a past life regression, and how can it benefit them
Mhm.
specifically?
So I've had people come to me because, and again, this is not medical advice
Sure.
at
Yeah.
all. This isn't a substitute for seeing your doctor and finding out what's going on. But I've had people referred by their doctors. I've had people come to me who have a pain that the doctor says we cannot find anything for. So they've already done their due diligence with the medical profession, and they don't understand why they're still having whatever it is. Um, and we'll do a regression, and they will discover, yep, I died in a very violent way in a past life. So that's why I was hit over the head with a rock. That's why I keep having these headaches.
Mm-hmm.
They'll see it, they'll identify it, the headaches go away. I've had people come forward that were, again, referred by doctors. They were having, pains in their uterus, things like that. And they've remembered being in a Nazi hospital, worked on without, like basically researched on without anesthesia.
Sure.
And, pretty horrific things. But being able to remember it allows them to let it go, right? So that would be one thing. If people are in situations of unforgiveness, or they're stuck in some way, they are not letting love in, we go back and we look at like what happened in the past life. Like one person had lost her, it was like in the old days before cell phones, really long time ago, gone to the fair in the 1800s or something, lost her brother, could never find him again, could not forgive herself. So we did some forgiveness work, some Ho'oponopono work on that. And so I can't remember exactly what was going on in this lifetime, but that's what had happened in that lifetime. And so there was this sense of maybe feeling guilty in this lifetime and not having low self-esteem or not being able to move on. I've had people remember having their heart broken in a particular past life. And once they can look at that and understand that, they're able to open their hearts to love in this lifetime. I mean, it's all kinds of things.
Yeah.
I'm always blown away. It
Yeah.
always just rocks my world because I can't predict what's going to happen.
Yeah.
And it's not me telling them what their past life was. They're going back and remembering. I've been surprised that many people have committed suicide in the past life that they go back to. And so then it's understanding what was lost in that lifetime by taking their own life, and how to not, how to work with depression and forgiveness in this lifetime so that they can be at peace with what happened at that lifetime. But it is amazing. And so, I think anybody that is drawn to this, that wants to know, that may be struggling with a relationship or some sort of pain, they've gone to their doctor, they can't resolve it, they've gone to therapy, it's not resolving, or you're just curious, you want to know something.
Yeah. Yeah. I kind of like, real quick, I want to share this personal thing that happened in mine, just because the like, I think the breadth of what can happen in these sessions is incredible. And so I did one that was not guided, and it was rough. So what what I'm going to get to is that it's so good to do this with somebody who understands that it needs to be somewhat gradual and gentle and guided. It's really good to go through the process with somebody who's trained in it and who understands how vulnerable the experience could be. But in that one that I had, where it just sort of came up naturally in my spirit work, because something I had seen sort of triggered this own past life memory I had. My body has a strange way of processing spirit energy, and I saw the face of a man who took my life in this past life, and I had a bruise appear on my abdomen that looked like a face. And it was shocking. And I have pictures. I might even pop one up, because people like lose their minds when they see it. They're like, that's freaking nuts. But there's so much tangibility and realness to this process of past life stuff. That was like my thing of like, holy, oh my goodness, this is real. Because I had seen this vision of this man's face, and it like literally there was this strange image on my body. And by the time the bruise faded, I had sort of incorporated this, and I was not having the health challenges that I had. That said, this all would have been much easier if somebody had guided me through the process, because I was kind of left high and dry and like, what's going on?
I mean, that sounds wild, and that's what can
It
happen, right?
was.
We can have these spontaneous memories of past lives. It happens to
Yeah.
people that they can run into somebody from their past life that they've had a past life interaction with before, and it can bring back memories or symptoms.
Mhm.
Um, they can go travel to a place, and also a past life will come back. Sometimes when people are giving birth, a past life will come back to them. So, these things are out there, and we never know when they're going to come.
Yeah.
There's a book called Spiritual Emergency
Mm.
that I highly recommend, by psychiatrist Stanislav Grof, that talks about spiritual awakenings, spiritual emergencies that people can happen when past lives and other things, that our logical mind does not know what the heck to do with when these things show up.
Mhm.
You obviously are open to spiritual things, so when weird stuff happens, you at least know where to get support. It was like, sounds like it was upsetting, but it didn't unmoor you. Some
Yeah.
people become unmoored by this, and
Mhm.
that's why it is important to have support. and to go slow. And when I'm working with people, like we'll take time. I'll say, like, if it's too much, you can float above this. You don't have to stay in seeing it. You don't have to feel it in your body. You can watch it like you're watching it on TV. You don't have to take all the pain in your body and
Mhm.
experience the trauma. Sometimes I'll tell people, you know what, whatever's most important for you will come through. Sometimes it's not going to be a past life. Sometimes it's going to be whatever's unresolved in this lifetime that you're not dealing with.
Mhm.
So, sometimes that's the work that will come through. And so they'll have a memory of something else.
Yeah.
Again, it's not psychotherapy, it's spiritual guidance. I just want to make sure that's clear and that's out there. I'm not
Yeah.
doing psychotherapy with these folks.
Right. S I think you've sort of described it, but it might be helpful too because this is kind of in new territory for a lot of people. I know it's been around a long time, but I feel like it's becoming more and more accepted to where people are, perhaps more ready to try it.
Mhm.
Um, could you describe sort of what a session looks like?
Yeah.
What it sounds like? Is it online? Is it in person? Is it both? Is it I know that some people are very wary of like hypnosis and things like that. How is it different? Yeah,
Right,
just
great question. So first I want to say, um, this is not recommended if if you're suicidal, if you're in a major depression, if you've been diagnosed with schizophrenia, even bipolar might be too much. I would say, if you hear voices, with the exception of like your channeled spirit, that, like you would be an exception. But
right.
like if you hear voices, especially voices that tell you to harm yourself or others, this is not for you. This is not going to be a helpful thing. This is going to cause you more problems. So I just want to be clear that past life regression isn't for everyone. If you are in psychotherapy, talk to your therapist first. Make sure you let your therapist know and make sure that they think it's a good idea. Because again, I'm not trying to create harm for anybody. So, but if you're feeling grounded, you're good self-esteem, you're feeling in a place for this, then how it works is at this time, what I do is all online. It's all through Zoom. So someone is in the privacy of their own home. They're lying down comfortably. I'm in different place in my office, and I guide them through a process of relaxation. It is not hypnosis. I'm not trained. I'm not a hypnotherapist. I'm not trained in hypnotherapy, but it is a guided process of relaxation and focus. So you kind of go into like a moderate, relaxed, trance-like state. You are always able to recall what's happening. You're not losing consciousness. You will know and hear everything that's happening. We have a conversation through it. And I take a person, first of all, just guiding them into relaxation, and then back to childhood. And we, just invite people to remember something from their childhood, whatever comes forward. Usually, whatever comes forward is connected to whatever lifetime is wanting to come up. There's usually it's like a key. It's very interesting. It
Mm.
also always trips me up. Like, wow, how does that work together? But we go back to their childhood, then we go back to their time in the womb, and then we go back to a past life. And again, whatever, like, we can remember all kinds of things, but those heightened unresolved memories and those unresolved lifetimes, or those lifetimes where there's a message for us, that's where people go. And it's about a 50 to 60-minute process of just going through the lifetimes, understanding what's important, what the messages are, and then meeting with your guide. So then I take people to meet with their guide and kind of understand the lesson or the importance of that lifetime and how to integrate it into what's going on now.
Mm.
So it's a very gentle process. Um, and yeah, and again, I don't tell you what your past life is. I don't think that's not helpful. Some people do go to people for that information. That's fine. That's not what I do. This is helping
Mhm.
you understand that you have access to
Right.
your soul, your soul's wisdom. It's in there. And this is a tool to help access it. And again, if your soul doesn't want you to know something, or if your soul's like, hey, stop looking in the past, you need to look at what happened, 3 years ago with that ex-girlfriend, like that's what your soul's going to bring up.
Yeah.
So again, it's about understanding the spiritual stuckness and
Mhm.
wisdom.
That's great transition. Literally, my next question was, so where is this balance of kind of, I think the spirit that I think we see and feel that, has been guided by the soul and that you sort of feel and connect to with the Manna Paradigm Shift is more about being present and sort of not going back to the past as much, that it is incredibly valid. But where does it balance with going back into the past, which is important, we know it is, but
Yeah.
then also not getting stuck back there and not letting that, saying this gently, but not letting it be a scapegoat for current behaviors. So how do we balance that of like the spiritual side of things of like the past is done, let it be temporary, let it be there, but also we got to heal some stuff. Is there?
Right. Right. So in the way that you are sort of a spiritual therapist for those that are beyond the veil that haven't completely crossed over yet, the spiritual work that that I help clients do is, okay, what what isn't forgiven from that past life? So it's like, okay, this person did this to you, or you did this to this person. That's forgiveness work.
Mm-hmm.
So I'll say, okay, let's look at, going forward, you need to do some forgiveness. So maybe read Colin Tipping's Radical Forgiveness book or Radical Self-Forgiveness. Do the Ho'oponopono prayer of forgiveness. I love, please forgive. I'm sorry. Please forgive me. Thank you. I love you. Say that over and over again to the person that killed you or the person that you killed, right?
Yeah.
Like, or the wife that left you at the altar or whatever it is, so that you're doing that healing work and that forgiveness work on that past life.
Yeah.
Um, if realize so and so is someone from your, was your spouse in your past life or whatever, that doesn't mean they're going to be your spouse in this lifetime. Don't get hung up.
Mm-hmm.
They may just be coming into your lifetime. And there's another book I'm writing. It's a memoir, and it's like, it's not what you think it is. So you might think, oh my God, I'm reuniting with this person that I knew in a past life because we're meant to be together in this lifetime.
Yeah.
Not necessarily. They might just be here because they're part of your spirit team, your soul group, and they're to remind you of something that you said you would do when you agreed to incarnate into this lifetime. So people get, kind of caught up on like, well, I got to do this again, or that means I should move to this place or that. No, but you got to understand what the wisdom is. And sometimes it's trying to translate what that wisdom is.
Yeah. Yeah. How did you get into this work? Because it seems like you've, done many things in your life and you've gone more on the medical and professional side and you've gravitated this way. And I see a lot of spirit workers and practitioners who have done this as well, where we end up sort of gravitating towards this spiritual healing side of work.
Yeah.
But how did it happen for you? How'd you end
Um,
up here?
Definitely gradually at different points in my life. When I was 26 and I was graduating with my PhD in clinical psychology, I had this like really weird, brief relationship, in that like fell in love with this woman, fell too hard, too fast, and it really unsettled me. And I had this sense of a loss of power, it was like I kept saying, and I was talking to a supervisor of mine, a clinical supervisor, and I said, I feel like I lost some power in this relationship and I don't understand it. And she said, oh, that sounds like you had a soul loss experience and you need a soul retrieval. Let me recommend this shaman.
Yeah.
And I was also going to an acupuncturist to try to help with different things because it just really destabilized me. And I thought, this is so weird. And what and so I went to this shaman and he did this soul retrieval. And again, there's this memoir I'm going to be writing that I'll talk about it. But what I realized, and it was the perfect timing, was that while I was graduating with a degree in clinical psychology, which is a form of mental health healing, my soul was like, hey, there's a whole nother form of healing that you also need to know about.
Mm-hmm.
And so I was led to it through this kind of heartbreak. And so I began to learn about shamanic healing and non-ordinary reality and things that my science mind, if you ever watch Northern Exposure, there's like this character named Joel Fleshman, who's a Jewish doctor who's very, very logical. And I was like him at 26. And then all of a sudden, here I was being introduced to these shamanic ideas and principles and getting this healing in ways that, and this guy knew things. And I was like, how could he know that?
Mhm.
What? How could he see these things? And he said, when I'm not going to charge you. I can see you believe this is like crazy. You didn't believe that this was possible. And this is my gift to you. And I
Mhm.
was like, wait, huh? Because my brain did not know how to take, my logical brain did not know how to understand how he could know these things, see these things, and do this healing.
Mhm.
Literally shifted me. The healings were amazing. And then we did more. And oh, it was just profound. So that started at 26. The next thing that happened is I went on to be a psychologist in a women's prison. And I can talk too long, so please cut me off at any point. But
No, keep going. I have to pause though. It is bizarre that parallel, because I had this Lakota tribe member shaman come out and change my journey at the age of 26 as well. It's just,
oh, that is weird.
it is weird. So
That's cool. And
yeah.
and weird is actually a word which means spiritual. If I don't know if people know that, but I learned that later because I say weird a lot. And the origin of weird is like mystical.
Mm,
That's what it means.
yeah.
So so yeah, so you had this kind of mystical experience at 26. I did too.
Yeah.
And then I started working in this prison, and
Mhm.
there was a very large Native American population, and wanted to try to create culturally competent therapy to be supportive in there, which also led me to work with different medicine men, healers, and to learn more about other ways of knowing and whatnot. So that kind of started to happen, and then I was like, okay, well, oh, and so then when I met with this, it was a Navajo, a Dene medicine man. He said, you have to go study your own ancestors. Well, my ancestry is um, Jewish, Polish, etc. And so he's like, you need to know your ancestors. So I started
Mhm.
to study mystical Judaism, which was fascinating, the Kabbalah, things of that nature. Um, and it just kept opening up. And then um, when something called Prop 8 happened in California, which was the loss of same-sex couples having the right to marry, because I was very involved in the marriage equality movement, I was drawn to a center for spiritual living and started to go deeper into that. So I had been doing my own work, but found this community. And while I was in that community doing that work, studying the Tao Te Ching, I had a very profound mystical experience at 41. And it was a profound spiritual awakening that completely reordered my life, um, changed everything. And I started to have my version of the veil being very, very thin,
Mhm.
and hearing spirit guides, and um, having like premonitions of what was going to happen, psychic things, synchronicities that just I couldn't walk away from. And but what it made me do was it I had to walk away from the life that I had built,
Mhm.
which was built sort of on egoic kinds of things. And
Mhm.
one of the things I had to walk away from was my marriage.
Mhm.
So at 41 years old, when this spiritual awakening happened, it was very clear that I needed to leave my marriage. And it wasn't because anything was particularly wrong. It was literally this spiritual knowing that it was time to go.
Yeah.
And which I do write about in this memoir that I'm working on, because I want people to understand too that like we can have these spiritual things happen, and we need people to understand what we're going through, because it can look really weird to people. Like, what do you mean you're doing this? You're
Yeah.
leaving a job or a marriage, or what do you mean your spirit guides are saying this or that? Um, and again, from a mental health perspective, people can think, well, you're crazy. And some people might be crazy, but and I know we don't use that word anymore, but it's like you might be having a mental health crisis, but you might be having what Stanislav Grof calls a spiritual emergence.
Yeah.
They can look similar, but they're very different.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. Also another parallel. I mean, I think the reason these are paralleling too. Our paths is they parallel for a lot of people who are in those kind of earlier phases and stages of spiritual growth and exploration. And again, like you said, just where your eyes open suddenly and you're like, oh my gosh, what's going on? But
Yeah.
yeah, I had my moment as well where I had this profound experience, and I was in a very deep connection with somebody, and that I wasn't the one ready to let it go, but this other person saw that I was undergoing profound shifts, and it sort of naturally and gradually came to a painful but necessary end.
Yeah.
And that was kind of my gift from that person, is what I see it as now. But in the time, at that time, it was heartbreak. And
Yeah.
then I jumped, right into this huge spiritual journey and path just a few months after that. And but again, I think that, whatever it is, God, the universe, the divine creator puts these people in our paths at specific times, and we have these very necessary experiences where we grow together and we learn together, and then we also become powerful mirrors for each other. And they're sort of placed in these paths at these specific times on spiritual journeys that we're all on.
Yeah,
Um,
a reason, a season, or a lifetime. That's what relationships are for. And
I
yeah,
was going to say it.
yeah. Um, so and just to kind of jump into the like, how did I get to past life work? Well,
Yeah.
so part of that was connecting with someone from a previous lifetime. And again, I thought it was going to go a certain way, but I realized that and in my regular practice as a therapist, people would come in and they talk about things. I was like, well, I want to understand this more. So I wanted to understand past life, the wisdom we could get from that, both in my work and for my own personhood, if you will.
Mhm.
Yeah. And I had read
Cool.
about Brian. Well, actually, and a friend of mine had kept saying to me, you need to read this book. You need to read this book. You need to read this book. You need to read this book by Brian Weiss. I'm like, yeah, 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 yeah. And I just, no, I wasn't going to. And
Mhm.
then suddenly, when this thing happened in my life, I was like, oh, I need to read that book. And
Yeah.
then I read every one of his books, and it was like, oh, that makes so much sense. And now I want to know more, and I
Mhm.
want to train, and I want to learn, and I want to help other people with this.
Very cool. Yeah. So I want to do a full conversation topic shift here, because I know that somewhere in the middle of all this, the Manna Paradigm Shift came out, and you've authored uh, multiple books, but this is the one that I think again, selfishly, I am most interested in, because there's so much profound wisdom in it. It's got beautiful guidelines for spiritual living and healing, and if you will, like breathing in the life force energy. And but one of the most powerful things in that is that say yes to spirit concept. And if you want to go into that and other concepts in it, how the book came to be, also would be wonderful to hear. But I
Yeah, happy to talk about that.
yeah.
Yeah. So the book is called The Manna Paradigm Shift, Creating the Consciousness of Abundance and Freedom.
Yes.
It just kept coming to me. It was like this notion of manna from heaven, which is it's ancient wisdom. It comes from the when the Jews were wandering the desert after they left Egypt. They had left their enslavement. Now they're wandering in the desert, starving to death. And God gave them manna, which is basically you have what you need day by day. You can have as much as you need for that day, but you can't hoard it. You can't keep it. It will rot. You have to take it the next day. And I just kept getting that we need to talk about this because we have been corrupted by other ideals, and we need to know that the universe provides for us. So we don't need to trample on somebody else. We don't need to hoard. We can be prepared for sure, but that the universe provides for us food, shelter, whatever it is, whatever we are needing, the universe is going to show up for us day by day. But there's this wisdom that is, you can't be in the mindset of enslavement. So you can't still be in Egypt, the proverbial Egypt, in the mind of enslavement, and then receive your good. If you're in a victim consciousness, you can't receive your good. If you feel unworthy, you can't receive your good. So you have to shift your thinking and put your trust in spirit. When you put your trust in spirit, it will come. So, but you have to create the faith. If you stay in the fear, you can't receive. So it's this kind of complicated thing,
Mhm.
but that's the wisdom. So it's like, okay, well, what do we do to get ourselves out of fear and into faith? What do we do to get ourselves out of victim mentality and into availability and allowance and knowing that our needs are provided for? So the Manna Paradigm Shift focuses on all those things: how to change your thinking, how to change your vibration, how to step up into a Manna mindset or Manna consciousness, where you're open and available to your good. Um, and some of that, came from, again, like hearing the story of Exodus over and over again. It's, if Jewish people hear the Passover story about fleeing Egypt, but biblically it talks about how when the Hebrews did leave Egypt, they were really pissed off at Moses because they're like, okay, well, you talked to God, God told you to tell us to leave, but at least when we were slaves, we had food, we had water, we had clothing, we had shelter, and now you want us to leave and leave this? And
Mhm.
so it's like basically leap and the net will appear. You've got to trust.
Mhm.
Can't stay giving your power away to something false. So that being in that certitude mind is the giving your power away to the wrong people. So we do that in our lives, right? We're like,
Mhm.
hey, Nike's my boss. Nike is my God. Intel's my boss. Intel is my God. How much money is in my bank account? That's my God. My president is my God. No, you cannot give your power away like that.
Mhm.
And
Mhm.
that wisdom is within each of us. We just have to like get ourselves there.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah, and I think what I've gathered from the portions that I have read, I will be honest, I have not read the entirety of the book, and I am shaming myself for it in this
Yeah.
moment.
Shame. No shame.
No, but it's that there's these threads that come through in this beautiful way that many of us receive from spirit, which is this illusion of scarcity, that we cannot be in a fear state, we cannot be in victimhood, but that the way that you phrase it and the way that you put it, there's actually a little bit of a blueprint and a guideline for people, more so than I'll say even like in the Iona messages that I received. They're like, here you should be in this mindset and you should be in this vibration. Yours is a bit more of like, here's how the things you need to change to get to that mindset. And so it's really practical, it's really usable, and that's a lovely. So I think we talk about these things and people are like, oh, I've heard this, I've heard things like this. It's different, I promise. The Manna Paradigm Shift, it's different. There's a blueprint here that is really useful. And I would encourage anyone interested in this sort of stuff to pick it up, because again, there's a very high vibration coming through in the pages of this book that is spirit guided.
Thank you. I appreciate that. And again, it kept coming to me. It kept coming to me. And if you want it, you got to do the work too, which is
Mhm.
meditation, right? Like you've got
Yeah.
to open and available. But it's funny, yeah. It came through. I thought I was going to have this particular publisher. They felt like it was too religious, so they didn't want to work with it. But I was like, I've got to get this book out here because it's so important that we know that we can have what we need day by day. The other thing is, I just want to credit this teacher that I worked with. Her name is Estelle Frankel, and she's a Jewish mystic from Berkeley. And she introduced me to the idea that in because I don't speak Hebrew, but that uh, Hebrew for Egypt is Mitzrayim, which means narrow places. And she sort of talked about that Egypt is the narrow places where we get stuck. It's where, and it's kind of like before the birth canal is is a narrow place, right? That's before you can birth something new. Um, you have to move through these places, these narrow places. You've got to move through these places where your thinking is narrowed to an expansiveness. And so I love that. So, the more
Yeah.
we read these kinds of things and put that into our energy field, we just are opening ourselves up more and more to the goodness of spirit.
Yeah, I 100% agree. Yeah. You mentioned meditation. I
Yeah.
ask like everybody who comes on these ascension chats, what are their personal practices? Because I think that people are joining into these conversations to listen, to hear kind of how we got here, what we're doing to stay in this place, how we're doing this sort of spiritual work. Yeah, what are your personal practices with meditation and
Uh,
just lifestyle?
Yeah, I love meditation. Like everybody, I need to do it more, but when I'm doing it, it's the best. I lose time. It's wonderful. it's important to have a practice. And
Mhm.
whether you're doing it for 5 minutes a day or 50 minutes a day, when you clear out that space for yourself, it's such a gift. So my practice, I'm not a steady Eddie, if you will, with my meditation practice at this time, but I do it 5 minutes here, 15 minutes over there.
Mhm.
But when I do it, it's great, and so I definitely recommend it. My kind of my other practice that I do, I pray on a regular basis. I do affirmations,
Mhm.
but my meditation has turned into hot tub time. I have a hot tub. I sit in the hot tub and I just take in nature. Sometimes open-eyed, sometimes closed.
Mhm.
That's kind of one of my special practices, is to just be outside, chilling in the hot tub.
Yeah. I do some of my deepest meditation where I have like my biggest connection moments in the shower.
Yeah.
So, I
Shower
can,
is a great place for
yeah.
even past lives and spiritual information to come through. It's right. So there's something about water
Hmm.
as a channel, as a conduit.
Yeah.
Definitely. Yeah.
Yeah.
I
Or there's
find
something about, yeah, just the flowing, and I think the sound of the moving water gets us in a different brain state and all that. So people, laugh at that, the shower meditation. I'm like, no, that's so real. We can have really great, profound spiritual experiences in that space.
definitely.
Yeah.
But to further answer your question, so meditation, need to do it more consistently.
Mhm.
I do a spiritual study. I'm always reading spiritual texts. I do affirmations. I do affirmative prayer, spiritual mind treatment, which is, I'm going to have a video on my channel about that.
Mhm.
It's like a 6-step process of, gratitude, connecting with spirit, affirming your connection and the qualities of spirit, uh, speaking what you want, or what you're affirming to already be true, giving thanks for it, letting it go, etc. I am connected in spiritual community because I think spiritual fellowship is important. So there's several different groups of other spiritual practitioners and people that I connect with on a regular basis. Um, I look for the spiritual lesson in what's happening in my life, and just keep doing that and growing. And
Mhm.
that's kind of, those are my spiritual practices. Walking, I think, is a good one too. Being in nature, um, and working to raise our vibration.
Mhm.
Uh, that music, again, helping yourself connect with what feels good, I think is in opening your heart. Keeping the heart open is so important. So that's part of my practice as well. And listening. What is spirit saying to me? What are the messages that are coming through? Okay, boom. Yeah, I had you and your mom over when I was doing a visioning and caught the vision of have pie hour.
Yes. Yeah.
Happy hour with pie. Make a pie, invite people over for pie. Okay.
Yep.
It was a weird spiritual message. And I did.
Perfect.
I invited a bunch of people, and you guys were the only one that could come at that point, but it was perfect and
Yeah.
wonderful. So, those weird spiritual messages come through and you just say yes.
Yep. Yep. That's beautiful. Yeah. I think that it sounds overwhelming. I'll say real quick, and I want to hear because people are really interested in this practice. I get so many people who are wanting like coaching on developing their spiritual skills and their mediumship skills, and a lot of it is very, very basic stuff. And so it sounds like a broken record, but it's like you got to be still, you got to connect to nature, you got to be grounded, you got to work on breath work. What would you say for someone like ground zero, right at the building blocks is one of the best things they can incorporate into perhaps every day, or just some practices they can add in sporadically to start living what I guess could be called more of a spiritual life?
Prayer and meditation.
Mhm.
Yeah, really, really prayer and meditation, not begging and beseeching prayers, not God, please do this for me. Um, but just, reminding, connecting with your wholeness, knowing that you are whole, perfect, complete, speaking that out loud, and affirming, doing affirmative prayer.
Mhm.
Um, Again, and meditation is, prayer is speaking to God, meditation is listening, or to the divine, whatever,
Mhm.
terms you use. It's listening and being available. And then having spiritual community to anchor in, because when we begin to open ourselves up to spirit, the things that are of the ego are going to move away. And so we need to create new structures based on the soul, based on real connections.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Things that you do that aren't for your highest good are going to start to slip out of your reality. You're not going to be able to engage in the same kinds of things. So you want to have community, you want to have support, you want to have other practices that you engage in to support you so that you're not isolated.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but yeah, those are some of the real basic things. And they're important because, I mean, sometimes people will do, there's a lot of people that do ayahuasca now and other forms of psychedelics to have a spiritual experience. I'm not pro or con. I'm not against or for that. What I do know though is that if you don't have the spiritual scaffolding to support you, you go out and have a, trippy oneness experience, then it's just an experience. It's like
Mm-hmm.
going to a concert. Or you have it and you become unmoored and you don't have a group of people to help ground you. And so it can become very detrimental to you. So
Mm-hmm.
it's like, you want to have the basics, the prayer, the meditation, the
Right.
spiritual study, the spiritual community, to the scaffolding to help you.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. No, that's very much true. I will say that just doing the work that I do on the side of some of the, creepier side of spirit work too, I am not a proponent of ayahuasca unless it is guided by someone who is very skilled and talented as somebody who
For
guides,
sure.
because I do see that it opens people up in a very interesting way in which they can then have less than pleasant experiences with some spirit that doesn't need to be a part of our reality. And when we go through some of that stuff, it can open us up to things that, there's much easier and simpler and gentler ways to go about it. So I would just say, if somebody's new to this,
Uh-huh.
don't go that route. Check
Go
in
that
with some
route.
spiritual texts, check in with some meditation, that kind of thing.
Yeah, it's definitely not my path. I'm not interested in that. And and I never say never, but certainly, like you said, if you are going to do that, uh, do it with someone who is a reputable shaman. I know somebody that, when they went to Peru, they did that and they ended up with like a parasite,
Hmm.
and they almost died because the water,
Hmm.
in the jungles of Peru has a lot
Yeah.
of parasites in it. So
Yeah.
careful.
Yeah. There's
Yeah,
there's a lot of reasons to be careful with that.
there's,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, but I do want to too. You mentioned your channel, and it fits perfectly with this meditation. So I want to plug your YouTube channel, because on it there's a lot of great content for people, again, at any place on the path. But I think it's really wonderful for beginners too on the spiritual journey, because a lot of the videos you have some of the well, all kinds of concepts, but really useful concepts for somebody who is just kind of dipping their toes and starting out, and then it gets further. But they're very oh, I will say I watched a few of them the other night, and they're soothing and calming, and you just have a lovely energy and presence in them, where people, I think, can feel like it almost feels like you're having a personal one-on-one session with somebody guiding you through these meditations or through these ideas. So yeah, I don't know if you want to talk about some of the content on that real quick.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, kind of like you, it sounds like during the COVID time, that's when a lot of stuff it got going for you. So for me, during COVID, I started a YouTube channel. I didn't have one before, that was, or if I did it, then I wasn't doing anything with it.
Hmm.
But during COVID, I really wanted to help create calm because people were panicking. It was scary. So I started doing just like daily meditation videos during COVID. And then started to create content of like, here's how to do stress management, here's how to do some relaxation, here's some self-care practices, and just trying to share a lot of both spiritual wisdom as well as some, self-care, uh, basic mental health kinds of things that people could do to support themselves through the pandemic. Um, so that's a big part of what my channel is and has been. I also, again, talking about, abundance and freedom, not from the get rich quick kind of
Yeah.
scheme, but from creating a sense of inner prosperity, a sense of inner knowing that, again, we can connect with an all needs met universe.
Mhm.
So from more of a spiritual place, and then also looking at where are our thoughts keeping us from being happy. So, you know, again, I have these different hats of
Mhm.
psychologist, spiritual practitioner, life coach. So a lot of things are interwoven because it's all about helping empower people. I also talk about my book, It's Never Too Late to Be Yourself, Follow Your Inner Compass and Take Back Your Life, which is kind of like a life coach in a book, and takes you through the process of how to make change and how to go through transitions, because transitions are unnerving, and whether they're transitions that we choose or we choose change or change happens to us, like the pandemic, how to cope with those kinds of things. So that's a lot of what the channel is. And will continue to be about, the different spiritual topics, self-help topics, how to soothe, how to care, just, how to take care of yourself. I think that's important. It's a gift I want to share. Again, I'm committed to making the world a better place. And I think when we do our own inner work and we understand and learn more, we can make the world a better place, one person at a time.
Yeah, that's beautiful. So, if people have watched this and they're picking up on the vibes that you're putting down and they want to connect with you, how can they do that? How can they reach you?
Yeah, so you can go to my website, davinakotulski.com, and you can, find me there. And you can go to my YouTube channel. And my YouTube channel, da, 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 da. What is my YouTube channel? This is terrible. It's Davina Kotulski.
I was
That's
gonna
my
say,
YouTube channel. Yeah, and so at Dr. Kotulski or Davina Kotulski.
mhm.
Um, and you can find my videos there.
Perfect,
You can see
perfect.
I'm super high pressure, like and subscribe, super high
Yeah.
pressure.
Yeah.
It's quick.
So, as we wrap this up, I would just ask, what would you like people to be able to step away from this with? What would you like to share to anyone what would you like to share as we close this?
Yeah, I guess what I'd like to share is, whether you're reading my book or reading your book, there's a lot of wonderful resources out there to help you on your journey. And, to say yes to spirit, if you're getting the call, you want to live a more spirit, directed life, uh, do it and take care of yourself around that. You don't have to do it alone. There are a lot of resources out there. Um, and I'm here if you want to do a life coaching session, you want to do a spiritual counseling session, you want to do a past life regression session. Uh, I'm here for that.
Mhm.
Or you can find other people. And but I would say most importantly, don't give away your power to any healer, any therapist, any guru, any
Mhm.
psychic. Never give your power away. Um, and make sure that you're internally validating any information that you're getting, because it's important that it's coming from your soul.
Mhm.
Um, but yeah, that the spiritual journey is worth it. It's not easy. You don't have to do it alone. So reach out, get support however you can through a spiritual community that you're connected to, or through a practitioner. But yeah, it's definitely worth it, but don't do it alone.
Mhm. Mhm. I agree with everything that you just said. So
Yeah,
I think that one, I will just real quick say that's such an important point too for people who are starting to reach out to others to kind of get guidance, if you will, in this form of spiritual guidance is a very sort of vulnerable place to be. So
very.
I just want to reiterate, like, please, please, please don't ever, ever, ever let someone tell you, this is the way it is. This is how things work. This is who you are. Let your intuition guide you. Let your soul self guide you. And as Davina said, get many different opinions, reach out to multiple practitioners. There's this thing in spirit work that I've seen where a lot of people seem to be almost like competitive, or, try my way, not that way. And that's the exact opposite of this energy. We should be like, oh my gosh, go try this person, try that one, check out this thing, like, look at what's going on over here. And, just find your cup of tea, find what works. And so
Exactly.
I love you do that very, very often. I see too, you're very much promoting other spirit workers and saying, find what works for you. So I love that about your style of spiritual guidance as well. Yeah,
Yeah, thank you. And see, it's more fun to do the spiritual work in community
yeah,
with other friends. It's more fun. So, thank you.
it
Thank you for
is.
saying yes to your calling.
Yes, you as well. I just have to ask, I always ask this like at the end of Ascension Chat too, and then we'll close. If you want, can you share one of the most beautiful things that you have seen in your work with spirit, or a profound spiritual experience? You talked about that one you had at around the age of 41. It doesn't have to be that one, but just something you've seen that hopefully can inspire people to remember the beauty of spirit and what is possible to be seen.
Hmm.
I know I just
Okay.
threw that one at
Yeah,
you.
yeah, no, that's a big one.
Yeah.
Well, what's coming through? So, there's
Mhm.
probably a bunch of different things, but I'm just going to go with what's coming through. So when so I mentioned that my life changed radically. I ended up moving to Los Angeles, and I had a prayer partner in Los Angeles, who was quite wonderful. And we had a very short period of time together because she was diagnosed with cancer and was dying the years of her life that I knew her, and got to be a part of sort of uh, her birth into death, if you will, the
Mhm.
dueling into death. And through that experience, so many mystical things happened. From one, the night before she died, this beautiful golden energy came to me in my sleep. And I just felt so encompassed in love and this just golden energy. It was profound.
Mhm.
And I had learned later that other people that knew her had that similar experience that night,
Oh,
that
wow.
she was making the rounds to all of us and saying goodbye.
Mhm.
I just woke up just with this incredible feeling. Um, got to witness her passing, and was invited by her family to do her eulogy. And while I was giving her eulogy, this butterfly flew up and landed on the scarf that she had given me when she was still alive, that I wore to her eulogy. And it landed on here. And then it flew to her mother.
Mhm.
And it was just amazing. And I was like, that to know, to have that sign come from spirit
Mhm.
in such a profound way, was an incredible gift. So again, my younger self would have, that's not logical, that doesn't make any sense. If you have, I would just say, if you have experiences like, I mean, I know you do, but for
Yeah.
everyone else,
Yeah.
like, listen,
Mhm.
the universe, our loved ones are communicating with us. God is communicating. The universe is communicating with so many beautiful ways.
Mhm.
Let your heart be open to that and experience it. And it's just profound.
Yeah. Oh, thank you so much for sharing that experience. It's beautiful. And I was covered in full spirity chills and had tears. It's just, that resonates so deeply. So I really appreciate you sharing that. That will be very helpful to people who hear it. So I am so grateful to you for taking the time to chat and to share your wisdom and your knowledge. And yeah, I just really appreciate you doing this.
It was a
So
pleasure. Thanks for having me. I really appreciate
yes,
it. And I don't
I
know if
hope
you've
you,
noticed, but the light keeps coming in. This beautiful light keeps coming in. And I think that's, there's something spiritual there
there
happening. I know
is,
there's
yeah.
the sun, but I feel like it's more than that because it's been raining all day.
Yes, exactly. Well, I hope you have a wonderful rest of your day and that the energy of spirit is with you on this journey as you travel this path.
Thank you. Until we meet again.
Yep. Bye-bye.